This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today we're going to talk about stories. I'm going to tell a story about heaven and hell, what the difference is, the difference between heaven and or hell. And you don't have to believe in God to get the benefit out of this story. You'll see where I'm getting at. Think of heaven as the place of complete content and peacefulness, and think of hell as the place of chaos and tyranny. So if we could think about it like that, there's an interesting thing. This isn't the story that I wanted to share, but now that we're talking about it, because that's what we're doing, we're talking. This quote reads, "What if after you die, God asks you, so, how was heaven?" I remember that got me thinking. It's like so many of us are like just continually putting heaven off, right? And heaven could be, it could be a marriage, it could be children, it could be the next level of your professional career, it could be finishing university, right? It's a metaphor for the thing that we put off until we realize that we have to be completely still and empty in order to actually obtain heaven. Yeah, it's interesting. Keep going down that rabbit hole, hey? But my point there being, it's like, what happens is if heaven's right now, if heaven has the opportunity to be here with us today, as you define it, I think that's really beautiful. But either way, leading into the story. Now, this story is actually from a book called Selling with Integrity by Sharon Drew Morgan, which is quite interesting. She wrote this back in 1997. If you do any work with me from a coaching perspective, especially if you're a PT, I speak to a lot of people and they struggle with the whole sales and marketing and all that sort of stuff, which is fair enough. I fucking get it, hey. But what I end up doing is I recommend to go down and do a fair bit more reading around Sharon Drew Morgan. That's Morgan with an E instead of an A, not instead of an M. And she comes from, once again, Something with Integrity, from this concept called buying facilitation. It's a very good model. It shifts from going to sell people to help people buy, whether that be your product or not. But either way, check it out if you're interested. Otherwise, page 60 in the book Selling with Integrity. This is the story. You ready? A man died. When he came to and realized he was no longer living, he looked around and found an angel sitting by him. "Would you like a tour of the grounds?" the angel asked. The angel led the man around. The first room he came into was a darkened room with beautiful candlelight and many people sitting around a bubbling pot of delicious smelling stew. "Oh, what a smell, just like Mother's kitchen on a cold, rainy day." "Where am I?" the man asked the angel. "You're in hell." "But how can I be in hell with such an amazing stew?" "Watch," the angel said. The man looked again and noticed that the people there were very weak and thin, although they each held the handle of a 6-foot long spoon. As he continued to watch, he saw that occasionally one person would maneuver the spoon into the pot, take out a spoonful of delicious-looking stew, and attempt to maneuver the bowl of the spoon into his mouth, only to watch the food end up on the floor due to the length of the handle. The people were starving, with as much food as they needed, just a spoonful away. "What does heaven look like?" the man asked the angel. The angel brought him to another room, which looked exactly the same as the first. The dim light, the people sitting around the long spoons, the delicious stew. But there was a difference. These people were all fed. They were all happy. There was laughter in the room. The man watched while the people took turns maneuvering their 6-foot long spoons into the stew. But instead of trying to get the spoonful of stew into their own mouths, they were feeding each other. All of them had food. There you go, hey? When you have a fucking sales book that talks about that shit, that's why you know you're in a good book. So, let's have a look at this story. There's a couple of things here that I really enjoy about this. Oversimplification, for sure, of what heaven and hell probably is like. I'm happy to try and create heaven here as best I can, understanding that we're in hell at the same time. But all that aside, another conversation. I want to have a look at the first thing about this. Now, what it showed was that between heaven and hell, like visually, there was no fucking difference, right? There was no difference. It looked exactly the same. Now think about that. We create heaven, we create hell. That's one thing that it's getting to. And all you need to do is turn the light off and you start to see people getting different meanings to what the dark means, and you can see that people create their own hell or they create their own heaven. It's the meanings that we have. This is what's so fascinating about it. But what I also found really fascinating was the fact that they used a spoon. Why was a spoon so interesting? Well, I mean, it was a 6 foot long spoon. It's pretty fucking useless, but that's the whole point, right? To try and get a 6 foot long spoon into the mouth while holding the end of the handle, I'm assuming that's what they were doing, would be extremely difficult. But the thing with the spoon is that you can only fit so much stew with the spoon. Like, there's only so much before you have to go back. And think about that. If you want to be able to earn your food, then you got to earn your keep. You got to go back and go back to work again. And this is the interesting thing that I got from the spoon idea, is the fact that if I wanted to actually get fed, as soon as that feed runs out, I have to go back to work. And I think there's a fair analogy around that. But then you looked at heaven, and it's like they're using the same spoon, but they're feeding each other. And this is a really nice analogy and a short story for sure that doesn't go into enough detail, but we can sometimes get caught being like, yeah, but I do help everyone else and I do feed everyone else, but they don't feed me. It's like, great. Then you're not feeding you by being around the right people, right? So what I encourage you to look at is how this reflects into your own life and see if the people around you are feeding you. So be around people that feed you. But here's a fucking kicker. And this is the same as the be around the 5 people that lift you up kind of thing. I'll come back to that in a moment. But you need to be the type of individual to be able to feed people around you. That's so crucial, right? People often be like, your vibe attracts your tribe and seek to be around the smartest people and all this kind of shit. It's all narcissistic. It's all like, no. Look at what you project. Look at what you project into this world. Don't worry about what you fucking attract. What you project is where you should focus, because what you project is actually going to presuppose what you attract. And this is really crucial, because then there's no sort of like integrity loss with this idea of what you're actually attracting, because it's not your focus. Your focus is what you're projecting from a value and ethical and moral standpoint. And this is why it's so crucial that, yes, we surround ourselves with people that feed us, but we become the person that feeds, and we will then not accept having people around us that are just hanging off and taking and just taking and taking from us, because we ourselves wouldn't do it. That's the fucking kicker, because it's so interesting. I think I did a podcast. I had a podcast a long time ago called Mind Over Movement with a co-host called Lauren DeWitt now, but Lauren Hayes. And we talked about this, and it was like, this is all well and good to be like, you know, take stock of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and you're an average of those 5 people. It's like, yeah, but those people, you're part of you're contributing to their average. Like, you got to think of that. Like, don't look for people around you to pull you up. You have to do the grunt work. You have to get in there and put your fucking spoon in the stew and get the grunt work done yourself. And it's so crucial that you work to build up your own average. This is something that we miss out on so much, is that we think about getting around the right people and doing all these sorts. It's like, yeah, but be the right fucking person. One of the best things I ever read about creating a space to have a life partner, right? And when I was younger, I was not a good partner to any of the girls that I ever spent time with or dated or anything. I just wasn't, because I was so insecure that I thought maybe the next one will be better. And it's a horrible thing to say, but from my own shortcomings, that's what was part of who I was. And I'm so sorry about that as I've gotten older and understand it. And I have such a beautiful life partner now, but I had to swallow the realization that I wasn't a good partner to be able to become one, right? Because so often people get caught trying to find somebody that's going to be right for them. It's like, no. And there is a quote that goes with it, and it's a son says to his father, Dad, how do I find the right woman? He goes, focus on being the right man. And that is the best fucking bit of advice. Flip it around if you've got a vagina. I don't really care, but you get the friggin' point. We're so busy trying to find someone else to plug our holes. It's your fucking job. You got to do it, and look at what you project in the world, because what you project will come back. And I love you guys for it, and that's why I love this fact that, 6 months ago I was like, oh, should I do this? Probably 8 months ago. Should I do this? Should I not? And 21,000 downloads later, and you guys show me love and getting in touch and telling me your stories and that kind of stuff. It's been amazing. So thank you guys so much. And I think that's just a perfect example of what you project just comes back. I look forward to many, many more returns with you all. So team, that's it. I'm out. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please check out Mood Prep Online and join us in the conversation there. You'll find out more at davenixon.com.au/memberships. If you're a PT, a coach, or an athlete, then I really recommend that you jump on literally before this Friday night And check out the Coaches Circle, because it's the last of the first intake, and the intake can continue afterwards, but the price will never be this price again. And also, it would be harder to get in barriers. Barriers will make it harder to get in afterwards because of my time allocations as well. But either way, check it out. That's it. I'm done. If you found this beneficial, it'll mean the world to me. If you would pass it on to someone else that you think would also find it beneficial. Until tomorrow, team. Peace and pizza. Keep the day in the dick. Slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
To be everything at once, be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.